Okay, hi. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Sean Bouchard. I am a game designer who likes to play and talk about games, and that's what we're going to do tonight. We're gonna play some more of the Stanley Parable. I've played through like a couple different runs. I did full compliance. I did full disobedience. I feel like that's sort of testing the edges, um, like pushing against the walls, if you will, and now we can sort of explore some of the stuff that's in the middle. I'm really, really eager to see some things. I get the sense, and I think, you know, I get the sense from the game and from the buzz around the game and from the chat that there are some really, really interesting gems of narrative thread hidden in various parts of the in-between space between full compliance and full disobedience. So we're going to play with some of that tonight, and I'm really super excited to see it. And to try to talk about it. One of the things that I found with this game is it's super clever. Like it's pretty consistently outthinking me. It is trying to sort of do the same uh, game design analysis on itself that I am trying to do on it, and it's mostly doing it quite a lot better than I am. But that's fun. Certainly, that's fun for me to play through. So we're gonna see some more of that. We're gonna start by popular demand with Broom Closet. That is all that I
Someone
know.
was following Stanley. He was sure of it. If he checked over his shoulder now, he would surely catch them. It was only a matter of time.
Checking over my shoulder. So, okay, 2 points. God, this game, man, it's so full of cool stuff. So, one thing that I want to bring up that was mentioned to me earlier after my playthrough last night was this idea that some of the text, some of the narratives, the narration, I think even parts of the world that we believe we have seen before because we have seen it before. We've played through the game multiple times now. Actually changes as we go through. There's at least subtle differences in what the narrator says. For example, this piece of narration, this little dialogue snippet, is something I have never heard before, and I have walked through this room several times. I don't know if it's, I don't know where it comes from. I don't know if it's tied to, this is the sixth time that I've restarted the game, or the first time that I've manually restarted the game, or the first time, I don't know, or maybe it's just I've been playing the game for 2 hours, and so now it's going to trigger this thing. This little piece of text is just a wonderfully brilliant, almost Brechtian sort of attempt to destroy my sense of immersion in the game. And this is something this is one of the many things that Davey is doing with this game, is it's playing with my sense of who I am as a player, in addition to who I am as a character. And so the first time that we play the game, it starts out very clear, especially like I did the full compliance the first time through. You are Stanley. Stanley is addressed consistently throughout the game. The narrator talks about Stanley, and there's no ambiguity there. There's no separation between the player and the character. This I am interpreting. There's somebody hovering over your shoulder. If you just turned around quick enough, you would see them. That's me. That's like if the monitor that I am looking at is the first person perspective of Stanley, then the person standing over his shoulder, looking over his shoulder, is me, the player. Now all of a sudden I'm thinking very hard about my relationship to the game, to the character in the game, the fact that I am not the character, that I'm playing a game. Like, the game makes me aware of all of this stuff. I just want to make sure I don't miss the broom closet. I don't think so. There's a broom closet around here somewhere.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Pretty sure it's down this path.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
We looked at this before, but this is... I mean, there's just some beautiful environmental narrative going on. This kind of, you know... in other... I mean, this is something that you see a lot in, like, say, BioShock, right? You see pieces of narrative that are literally written on the walls. And that's a common way to do it. It's a common way to sort of place narrative... Oh, here we go. Place narrative into the game in an interactive space in a way that doesn't make you, as a player... it's not controlling your experience. It's not, like, forcing you to look at something at a particular time, or you know, it's not directing your attention, I guess, but it's exposing you to new kinds, to different kinds of narrative as you want. You can sort of self-pace it.
Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track.
So
there was nothing here. No choice to make, no path to follow, just an empty broom closet. No reason to still be here.
The broom closet, I just want to say, is beautifully called out, right? I would argue that the 2 most obvious paths in this game are the full compliance and full disobedience. And so I expect there to be meaty content, really interesting content along both of those paths, because those are the paths that the designer expects the most people will experience, and perhaps all players or most players will experience at least those 2 things, and then they'll experience a smattering of the other things. This, as I'm anticipating, this is going to be another place where there's some interesting content. He does a really good job of calling that out, of labeling this door differently than all of the other doors. And it's subtle. You know, it doesn't look out of place, but there's no way that you could pass it by after walking down corridor after corridor with these numbered doors and see broom closet in big letters and not, like, notice that, not realize the first time that I went through, I was doing full compliance and I still went in the broom closet.
It was baffling that Stanley was still just sitting in the broom closet. He wasn't even doing anything. At least if there was something to interact with, he'd be justified in some way. As it is, he's literally just standing there doing sweet FA. Are you really still in the broom closet? Standing around doing nothing? Why? Please offer me some explanation here. I'm genuinely confused.
So why are we in the broom closet? I mean, obviously because there's a hive mind. Like, we know through buzz, the internet has told me that there's a reason for me to do this, to follow this path. But the first players to play this game don't have that. And so there's 2 things that the designer could be relying on. And knowing Davey, I'm sure he considered both of these things, and maybe is relying on both of them equally. But on the one hand, you've got sort of the ARG paradigm, alternate reality games are huge, incredibly complicated puzzles that get solved unbelievably quickly. Because so many people are working on them at the same time, using the power of the internet to communicate with one another. So the fact that there are all of these little interesting nooks and crannies in this game, somebody's going to find it. Somebody's going to, like, by chance, discover the broom closet, and then word will get out. And then everybody will know that the broom closet is something worth doing. That's one thing that's potentially going on here. The other thing is, and this is, for me, this is more powerful in this case. I'm here, even though the voice is chiding me that there's no reason for me to be here. There's no interactivity. There's nothing for me to do. I'm literally just standing here, and that's true. But I'm being rewarded. I'm being rewarded at a, like, regular interval, at a consistent pace. By the attention that the narrator is paying to me. And we've talked about that as a reward structure that this game uses, the amount that the narrator actually acknowledges the things that you are doing. That is one of the key rewards that this game offers. And so the fact that it doesn't take long for me standing in the broom closet for the narrator to say something else unique and usually witty, that indicates to me that first of all, like, I'm being rewarded for doing what I'm doing. I'm going to keep doing it. And second of all, if the game is rewarding me for doing something, then that suggests to me that the game wants me to do it. That's the way that games work. They're these little machines that teach us how to play them. And so the more the game rewards me for doing something, the more I'm going to look for that thing, for opportunities to do that thing. And that's what's happening here. It's just the thing that I'm doing is standing in the closet.
If I'd said Stanley walked past the broom closet, at least you would have had a reason for exploring it to find out. But it didn't even occur to me, because literally this closet is of absolutely no significance to the story whatsoever. I never would have thought to mention it.
What is the story, right? Is it the story that the narrator's telling, or the story that we're telling through our actions?
Maybe to you this is somehow its own branching path. Maybe when you go talk about this with your friend, you'll say, "Oh, did you get the broom closet ending? The broom closet ending was my favorite." I hope your friend finds this concerning.
Thank you, everybody who wrote that.
Stanley was fat and ugly and really, really stupid. He probably only got the job because of a family connection. That's how stupid he is. That, or with drug money. Also, Stanley is addicted to drugs and hookers. Well, I've come to a very definite conclusion about what's going on right now. You're dead. You got to this broom closet, explored it a bit, and were just about to leave because there's nothing here, when a physical malady of some sort shut down your central nervous system and you collapsed on the keyboard. Well, in a situation like this, the responsible thing is to alert someone nearby so as to ensure that your body is taken care of before it begins to decompose. Hello? Anyone who happens to be nearby? The person at this computer is dead. He or she has fallen prey to any number of your countless human physiological vulnerabilities. It's indicative of the long-term sustainability of your species. Please remove their corpse from the area and instruct another human to take their place at the computer, making sure they understand basic first-person video game mechanics and filling them in on the history of narrative tropes in video gaming, so that the irony and insightful commentary of this game is not lost on them. All right, when you've done that, just step out into the hallway.
So everything that I can say about this game will then proceed to say about itself 30 seconds later. And that's one of the things that makes this so amazing to me. So two interesting things just happened. One is that the narrator sort of crossed a barrier between talking about Stanley and implying that there's somebody controlling him, to directly addressing the person sitting at a computer playing the game. That's not so interesting anymore. We've seen that happen several times, but it's still kind of interesting to watch that sort of liminal moment when it transitions from one sort of mode of narration to another. It's very subtle, but it's also very distinctive. It plays with your head. What's the other thing that just happened? I don't know. I forget. Oh, the human thing, right? This is the first time that we've associated the narrator with a non-human entity, right? The narrator just sort of came out as a computer program or as an element in the game, as opposed to a person that we're interacting with, which is very different than in some of the other playthroughs where the narrator is expressing this extreme pathos, right? You're depressing him, you're killing him. Now he is more than human, which is interesting. I get the sense that sort of the reality in each one of these narrative paths doesn't exist particularly outside of that narrative path. So I don't know that there's going to be a lot of follow through or resolution on narrator as a non-human entity, but right now it's certainly interesting. It changes my relationship to him. I'm expecting there to be more content, and there may not be. That may have been it, that's certainly good enough. But one of the things that this game does that's interesting is it's constantly giving me mixed messages. It's giving me rewards in a very gamey kind of a way, encouraging me to do certain things and taking me down certain paths. But then when it wants to stop, when it has gotten to the end of its joke, it doesn't really have a way to tell me that, because it's constantly lying to me. All of the narrator's dialogue is validation for me. So it doesn't matter what he says. If he says, okay, this is over, go back out in the hallway, that has zero meaning. He lies all the time, and he lies specifically that lie all the time. The only way that I believe this is not a way for me to continue is if I stop getting that positive feedback, if I stop getting acknowledgement of what I'm doing, which is what's happened. I've stood here now for what I will subjectively call long enough to believe that there's no more content. That perhaps was the broom closet ending.
Ah, second player. It's good to have you on board.
Second player.
I guarantee you can't do any worse than the person who came before
Shit.
you.
This is. So it is continuing the joke.
Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
I'm gonna save downstairs for later. I want to see where the second player thing goes, if indeed it goes anywhere. To be rich, is it a crime? To commit crimes, isn't it rich? What a life it would be to have to pick just one. Interesting take on bathroom graffiti in an executive washroom. There's something, extremely perverse about that. It's a joke. It's almost a pun that you would see graffiti in like a gas station bathroom. So of course you see graffiti in any bathroom. I also like the time clock. That's just subtle. I haven't been in here. The gun to a panda's head is a thing. Okay, here's the thing. Like,
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. What could it mean? Stanley wondered aloud to nobody. He began wildly tearing through papers on the boss's desk, pulling books off the shelf, looking behind paintings, desperate for clues to his situation. But his attention was caught by a keypad behind the boss's desk. What could its purpose be? In fact, this keypad guarded the terrible secret that lay buried below his feet. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
2845, right? Let me just, because I didn't call attention to it before. This is just such a very nice. The interface shift where I can punch in numbers on the keypad is just elegant. I mean, it's not complicated. It doesn't need to be. It's really, really simple. It's very smooth. It doesn't break anything. Another game might have me like walk up to an object, click the interact button, takes the camera and puts it into a particular position and locks it, and now I have mouse control, and now I punch buttons like across the screen with my mouse, which is just this is perfect. This is just a like really beautifully elegant interface for this one moment in the game, which is the only moment that it's necessary.
Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination. Yet incredibly,
that was right.
By simply
Good.
Pushing random buttons on the keypad,
I could have read the text.
The correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
So I'm playing through some stuff that I've seen before, deliberately now, because I can't tell how far the whole like broom closet thing goes.
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
So, something in my past has changed, right? Something early in the game has changed, and now I'm curious to see what effect that change has on the remainder of the game. And it's entirely possible that it has no effect. It was self-contained enough that, it would make sense now for the game to proceed exactly as normal. But this game, right, like, I don't know, it's very twisty. It could easily react to this in an unexpected way. So the dialogue that we're seeing here, or the narration that we're seeing here, is narration that we've seen before.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
This is pretty much what it was the first time I went through with a compliance run through. But at any point, I feel like it could change.
Packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
Terrible secret. I actually don't remember if there was an interesting choice point at the end of this, but I think there is.
Of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers.
So I'm going to try that. I'm going to go all the way to the end and then do something different.
To images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing. This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time?
Pirate.
Was this the only reason he was happy with his
Fired.
boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never.
Pirate
It was
is interesting.
unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy, or sad, or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
So there's a button labeled 4, which implies to me that there are at least 3 other buttons, and that I am supposed to press the other buttons first, but I don't know where they are, and I don't know if that's true. Okay, I'm going to go looking for other buttons. This feels like... This is expected. This feels like the kind of interaction that I would expect there to be, that I would sort of get to this endpoint and have an option to have something other than the sort of default ending to do. And there may actually be, several things here. I don't know. 3. It's also possible I was supposed to count down. It's also possible that these buttons aren't activated yet. In the demo, I remember... No. There was a sequence in one of the endings where you could like set off a bomb or a missile or something, and maybe those buttons are part of that, if that still exists. These are interesting. I don't know how to interpret 10. Home, triangle. I don't think they're meant to be interpretable. Okay. Alright. Everything's offline. Oh, here's a 5. No good. I just want to check and make sure I didn't miss something interesting. But I don't see it. Gosh, I feel like I'm so close to something. I mean, there's clearly, well, I say clearly, this is the Stanley Parable. So, that said, if this was like a juke, if this was a fake out, like here are some buttons that are labeled to make you think that you should press them and they don't do anything, which is something I would not put past this game. What I would expect is to get some sort of feedback, probably making fun of me for pressing buttons that don't do anything. And maybe... Now, instead of
and when at last he found
turning
the
it
source
off,
of the room's power,
here we go.
He knew it was his duty, his obligation, to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for.
And we've got this interface again. It makes it very obvious what I'm doing.
You didn't just activate the controls, did you? After they kept you enslaved all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine for yourself. Is that what you wanted? Control?
Maybe.
Oh, Stanley, I applaud your effort, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You were supposed to let it go, turn the controls off, and leave. If you want to throw my story off track, you're going to have to do much better than that. I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you do. For example, and I believe you'll find this pertinent, Stanley suddenly realized he had just initiated the network's emergency detonation system. In the event that this machine is activated without proper DNA identification, nuclear detonators are set to explode, eliminating the entire complex. How long until detonation then?
It's
Let's
glitchy.
say 2 minutes. Now this is making things a little more fun, isn't it, Stanley? It's your time to shine. You are the star. It's your story now. Shape it to your heart's desires. Oh, this is much better than what I had in mind. What a shame we have so little time left to enjoy it. Mere moments until the bomb goes off. But what precious moments each one of them is. More time to talk about you, about me, where we're going, what all this means. I barely know where to start.
Ha! Door closes. That's
I'd
good.
like to know where your co-workers are. A moment of solace before you're obliterated. All right, I'm in a good mood. You're gonna die anyway. I'll tell you exactly what
Interesting.
happened to them. I erased them. I turned off the machine. I set you free. Of course, that was merely in this instance of the story. Sometimes when I tell it, I simply let you sit there in your office forever, pushing buttons endlessly and then dying alone. Other times, I let the office sink into the ground, swallowing everyone inside, or I let it burn to a crisp. I have to say this, though, this version of events has been rather amusing. Watching you try to make sense of everything and take back the control wrested away from you, it's quite rich. I almost hate to see it go. But I'm sure whatever I come up with on the next go-around will be even better. My goodness, only 34 seconds left. But I'm enjoying this so much. You know what? To hell with it. I'm going to put some extra time on the clock, why not? These are precious additional seconds, Stanley. Time doesn't grow on trees. Oh dear me, what's the matter, Stanley? Is it that you have no idea where you're going or what you're supposed to be doing right now? Or did you just assume when you saw that timer that something in this room was capable of turning it off? I mean, look at you.
There's literally nothing that I can add to the commentary that the game is giving itself at this point. I mean, this is
Running from button to button, screen to screen, clicking on every little thing in this room. These numbered buttons, no, these colored ones, or maybe this big red button, or this door. Everything, anything, something here will save me. Why would you think that, Stanley? That this video game can be beaten? Won? Solved? Do you have any idea what your purpose in this place is? Stanley, you're in for quite a disappointment. But here's a spoiler for you. That timer isn't a catalyst to keep the action moving along. It's just seconds ticking away to your death. You're only still playing instead of watching a cutscene because I want to watch you for every moment that you're powerless. To see you made humble. This is not a challenge. It's a tragedy. You wanted to control this world, that's fine. But I'm going to destroy it first, so you can't. Take a look at the clock, Stanley. That's 30 seconds you have left to struggle. 30 seconds until a big boom and then nothing. No ending here, just you being blown to pieces. Will you cling desperately to your frail life, or will you let it go peacefully? Another choice. Make it count, or don't. It's all the same to me, all a part of the joke. And believe me, I will be laughing at every second of your inevitable life from the moment we fade in until the moment I say, happily ever up.
very, very nicely done. As you know, what can I say? Okay. When I come back, I'm gonna do probably that elevator. Maybe I'm gonna try to go down the stairs. I don't know. We're gonna do some other stuff. We're just gonna play around with the system and see what we can find. I'm gonna keep talking about game design whenever I can get a word in edgewise, because I mean, frankly, Stanley Parable is doing almost all of that work for me. So, you know, but I'll be back in just a minute. So stick around.